Did we leave hustle culture to walk into another trap? We've been conditioned to believe that the opposite of hustle is softness, ease, letting things unfold. If that narrative worked for you, great. But if you're someone like me that you constantly felt trapped in that narrative and you felt like the sense of softness and fluidity was something that you were chasing all along and you never would fully grab it and hold on to it. And also, aside from that, there was this layer of guilt whenever you wanted to work harder, you wanted to show up a lot more powerfully and letting life force move through you, you would get all tensed up and worry that this is going to lead to burnout and you shouldn't give to hustle culture and you're going into the old narratives and you shouldn't be doing that. There are plenty of spiritual gurus, business coaches that constantly talk about effortlessness, softness, and I get it. There's always that opportunity that we can do the hard things with more ease and more effortlessness. But that doesn't mean that we need to just sit and make comfort and ease the goal of our life. Because at some point, you get to a point that you feel so numbed out. And your brain, especially with the excess stimulation that is going on around us, our brain gets old, our brain loses its sharpness and its ability to focus and maintain a vision for an extended period of time. When and where did we stop trusting ourselves? That not all momentums need to lead to burnout. Because you probably know there is this element of joy that you're creating something. You're moving a project forward and seeing that project coming to life. There's beauty in that. But oftentimes when we hear in a lot of containers, when we hear about the softness and letting it be easy, letting it unfold, it's a way of avoiding that discomfort that comes with growth, the discomfort that requires us to deal with the overwhelm that comes with starting something new. We made overwhelm wrong, but I found every time I'm starting a new project or I'm learning a new skill, there's always that element of overwhelm at the beginning until my brain can see the connection between it all. In this video, I want to discuss what is the opposite of hustle culture. And how can we still stand firmly in our values, that we're not giving our power to the colonized programming of our system, but rather being able to still honor our natural tendencies to want more, to experience that satisfaction and that fulfillment from being in the flow of creating something that previously didn't exist or creating something that previously was challenging for us. If you're new to my world, my name is Hedi Shah. I'm a mindfulness teacher and a body worker, and I teach those who've been trying so many different things to finally move beyond what keeps them stuck and in pain. Hustle culture innately embodies the sense of lack, that I need to be doing more to feel something. And so often we don't even know what that something is. That can be so tied to our sense of self-worth, that we do a lot of different things out of this fear that we are not enough. So in order for me to feel enough, I need to hustle through life. And from the postural lens, I always see this as this sense of hyperextension, puffing your chest, pulling the shoulder blades back and just walking through life as if you're going for a war, right? You're just constantly needing to strive. I certainly associate with that posture, and I talked about it a lot in the past. So there's this element that I'm going somewhere because I can't stop, because if I stop, I need to feel the stuff that is going on in there. So I think there is that element of understanding where do you feel like your worth is coming from as the starting point of this conversation. Do you value yourself? Do you associate your worth to the amount of money you're earning, to the job that you have, to the kind of relationships you have, or the kind of status you have? And just really sitting with that, because a lot of striving that we experience in the hustle culture in this capitalistic world comes from that. We feel like we need to be somewhere to feel whole and to feel enough. But then we say like, oh, no, hustle culture leads to burnout. It doesn't feel good for the body. We're just ignoring ourselves and this and that. But what is the opposite of it? Is the opposite of it is softness, ease. But is that enough for the evolution of who you are as a person? And I think I'm not making either of them wrong here. If anything, I want us throughout this conversation to find a middle ground so we have the sovereignty, we have the agency to choose what we need in each chapter of our life. I personally experienced the both extreme of hustling to get somewhere and then also really letting the ease and the softness to be in the room. And at some point, like Carl Jung says, when we're going to the extreme of things, there needs to be another force coming in to create that balance, right? Like the same conversation with darkness and lightness. When we're really like trying so hard to be in the light all the time and we're ignoring all the darkness that is going on. So then that darkness needs to actually come up so we can find more of that harmony in our experience as a human. The serious burnt out experience that I had was after my car accident, when I had concussion, and it was also the first year of me starting my business. When I started my business, I had to say goodbye to my previous career, which I was pursuing urban planning and design, and I thought that was meant to be the path for me. When I decided to start my business, I didn't get the support I thought I would get from my family. So that was a very difficult patch for me to really take full responsibility for my choice. So I had to work really, really hard not to only provide for myself, pay for my rent, pay for my groceries, and then also, in a way, subconsciously prove to them that look at me, I succeeded. I created a successful business. There was this thing that I needed to prove that I was hustling towards. And then also as an immigrant, showing myself or probably the society that, oh, look at me, I moved to the West and I made it. I'm so successful right now. And looking back, yes, there were certain parts that I could allow myself to do things a little bit easier, a little bit more effortless. But a lot of it had to do with my survival. And perhaps if I go back, I would do the majority of the things the same. And then when pandemic hit, everything got shut down and my nervous system really felt this sigh in the entire system. Oh, thank God. So now I can relax. Now I can just be. And then later I moved to the UK to be with my boyfriend at the time. So now he's my husband. And he was willing and had the job security to be able to provide for us. So I wasn't worried about my basic needs, so I could just rest and soften and relax. But then there was a point that I felt this desire coming up for me to create more, to show up more boldly, and to share the experiences I learned along the way. But there was always this nagging voice in the back of my head that, oh, if you do this, you're going to burn out because you don't know what your limit is, right? So there's a part of me that doesn't trust me that I will know when I'm tired and I will rest. And also it's for fair reasons, because so many of us are so distracted that we can't even know what our capacity is in each moment and each season of our life. I constantly avoided this desire because I was so scared of burning out. I stayed in that ease and softness, not out of choice, but out of fear. So if you're in that chapter, either of them, if you're hustling right now, maybe it would be helpful to reflect on what are you striving for? Where is that deeper reason coming from? And if you're in that ease and softness, asking yourself, what are you doing it for? Is it a way of you avoiding something, or is it a sovereign choice that you made for yourself? Hustle culture comes from that pursuit of the sense of enoughness and worthiness. There's this element of we're working so hard to prove ourselves. When we choose to create intentional intensity because there is something here that I care and I want to share it and I want to show up, whether it's something that I want to share it with other people or it's this innate desire for me to show up and be seen without necessarily trying to prove anything. And I call that the devotion to life, because that's the life force that want to move through you. So you're committed to that. So you're not committed to pursuing this sense of, worthiness. And I already talked about it. What if we're not meant to be worthy? We're not meant to be enough, because that is not somewhere that we can stay for an extended period of time. We are human at the end of the day. And I found that when I let go of this desire to be enough, to be perfect, to be worthy, it allowed me to soften, like on my nervous system level, not just living a soft life, to be able to allow myself to be guided by life, by divine, by God, whatever you want to call it. So then in acceptance of my humanness, like my trust in life began to increase. Now the question is, what is your devotion to life? What wants to come through you to this life? The other important thing to consider when it comes to this opposition, right? Like hustle and ease and softness. I think these are often associated with the black and white thinking, the left and right thinking. That's how the system trained our brain to think. Okay, if hustle culture didn't work and I burn out, so then perhaps the opposite of it needs to be right. But what if the opposite is not the full story? I experienced extreme of, like in this example, extreme of hustle and extreme of softness. And then I'm like, oh, actually neither of them work. So I land somewhere in the middle. Like, how can we approach life and how we show up from that middle place more often? So again, middle is not somewhere that you statically stay there. It's fluid. So you might be slightly more to this side at one point, slightly to the other side at one point. And for me this year, there has been a lot of changes in my business. So I was more towards the hustle, or like that intentional intensity that I chose. I set an intention for myself to be able to show up as boldly as I can and be devoted to life moving through me and showing up as I am every single day. That's the other breakthrough that I had this year. Was before I would show up, speak at events or record a video or show up for clients, trying to be someone I wasn't on that particular day. For example, there was a particular day that I felt heavy, that I felt sad, that I felt tired. I would force myself to be energized to go there because I felt like my sad, tired, slow version wasn't enough. But then I started running an experiment that is connected to all the posture work I teach and I've done myself. It's like, how can I arrive as I am in that position of neutrality and let that be enough, right? And then I started noticing, actually, when I arrive as I am, I can deliver better experiences. People really feel more touched by that experience, more connected with that experience. And I collected enough evidence. So now when I move through life, I can trust that whatever I'm feeling is enough and I don't need to perform my way through life. And that was another reason that this time my momentum or intentional intensity was a lot more long lasting and I felt a lot more nourished. And I also could see where I could rest and there was gaps that I could just let myself be. While before I was constantly in performance mode. I didn't believe that if I didn't perform or strive, I would still create momentum. And that was exhausting. Now let's do a somatic exploration to see what comes up through the body for you. Whether you're in a chapter of your life that ease is being called for, or the other chapter that is calling you for intentional intensity, for focus, for direction. And then seeing what comes up for you, where you're at, and how can you arrive as you are with a sovereign choice rather than those motives be rooted in striving for something because there's lack or because there's fear. So take a moment and let yourself arrive wherever you are. If you can, have your feet planted on the ground beneath you and allow your breath softly moving through you. As if you're allowing the breath breathing you instead of you trying to breathe. Explore and witness what does it look like for you if you let the breath breathe you, if you let the life force move through you. See if you can soften the neck and the shoulders muscles when you're breathing. And feel your feet fully grounded on the floor. If you can, lift your feet off the ground and put it back down with a deeper sense of intentionality of arriving into this moment. And noticing the bottom of your feet touching the ground beneath you. And notice if you can allow the weight of your body move down towards the ground. And noticing the ground meet the weight of your body. And imagine there's a string attached to the top of your head. Have a bird come in, or if you have any spiritual practices, you can let that be in the room. So pull you up towards the ceiling. That creates a length in the neck and the shoulders. For those of you who are overachievers, this is a subtle shift in the body. It's not a massive pulling and performing into that straight position. And in that subtle adjustment, now can you let yourself relax, allowing your posture hold you instead of you trying to hold yourself. Now take a moment and reflect on your life. What are you being called to for the remainder of this year? Is it this feeling of resting, relaxing, tuning in, choosing ease? Or you hear the call to show up with more determination, with an invitation to increase the intensity, and just choose one of them for this season of your life. Just allowing your mind to start exploring how that could look like. How are you showing up from the moment you wake up, the way you go to work, the way you interact with others, the way you cook your food. And now, notice where do you feel that in your body? Where do you feel that in, on, or around your body? And what does the texture of that sensation feel like in your body? Is it that contraction or is it expansion? What is the sensation associated with it? You can name it for yourself. Is there any pressure there, or there is this sense of peace? I'm just noticing that. And then also it can be this sense of neutrality. You're just okay. with no particular emotional or sensational experience around that. And neutrality is very different than numbness. So numbness is you don't want to feel it. You pretend that you don't know. Neutrality is this feeling that I'm here, I got it, it's okay, I can see it. Now, connect to the opposite of that. And as soon as you think about that, let your mind start brainstorming on all the ways that could look like. If you chose intentional intensity, then now the opposite of it is going to be ease. So noticing what's coming up. Can you let yourself imagine that, experience that, and let your mind plan your day. And now track those thoughts down to your body and notice, how do you feel in your body? Is it this feeling of contraction, or this feeling of expansiveness, or potentially this sense of neutrality? Just allowing yourself to get really familiar with the sensation of this choice in your body. Now we're beginning to travel between the two choices. So you're going to go back to the original choice that you made. Check in with your body. How does that feel? What are you sensing when you're thinking about that choice? Take a moment here, a soft breath here. Get curious. And then now let's go to the other choice, the opposite choice. Once again, connect to what you're experiencing, what you're sensing in your body, where you sense it in your body. Let's go back to the previous choice. Notice how you're feeling. You might even want to allow the body to go to the shape of what you're experiencing. Maybe you're side bending, maybe you're rounding, maybe you're hyperextending, whatever the sensation that comes up for you. So now we're going back to the other choice. Once again, connect and sense in your body. What does that feel like? What are you sensing? What are you experiencing? So now we're going to travel a lot quicker between the two. So we're going to go back to the other one. And now let's go back to the next choice. And the next choice. And the next choice. Keep that going. Let's do that 2 more times. Another one. So now we are returning to the position of a neutrality. Feet nicely planted, finding that length in the spine, that beard is pulling you up. Let yourself relax. This is where you get to hold the polarities. You're not over-identifying with either or. You cultivate this sense of resilience to pendulum between them and understand what your body is experiencing. So you can always come back to this experience over and over again whenever you're feeling this conflict, this inner conflict with the choices that you're making, or when you want to make sure that the choices that you're making is coming from a rooted, sovereign place. Thank you so much for watching this far. If you enjoyed this and you want to explore what your body is trying to tell you, check out the Discover Your Body quiz down below, and I'll see you in the next video.